My name is Emrick. I am the city administrator for the City of Conway. A little bit about what I do for the city is I manage the day-to-day operations of the city. So management of all the staff, of all the programs, of all those things, that's all under my purview. We have a staff of just a little over 300 right now. That's growing each year, but right now we're a little bit over 300. That includes full-time and part-time staff. As I said, the city is growing. It's not just in employment, it's also in population and also in land mass. We have approximately 25.6 square miles of land mass in the city of Conway right now. And to give you an idea of how much we've grown, in 1990, we were 6.31 square miles. So we've rapidly increased the size of the city, the actual geographic size of the city. Under population, in 2000, we had a population of about 11,788. We estimate that right now we're pretty close to 30,000. The last census count has us a little bit lower than that, but we know that census count was an undercount, just from populations we can see that weren't included. And while we're growing, we have been very conscious of the environment. Clearly, we know we flood. We have a lot of experience with flooding, and we've made really strong efforts to be resilient where we can. Of that 25.6 square miles, nearly 3,500 acres of those are in conservation of some variety. And that equates to about 20% of the city size. So if you consider how big we are, 20% of us is an intentional conservation of some sort to prevent flooding and future disaster. Our total budget in the upcoming year will be nearly $70 million. That is larger than it's been in the previous years. A lot of that is one-time money. There's been a lot of grants we've acquired. There's been some ARPA money and things like that. So that's one-time money. It's not repeating money. And that's something we have to be very conscious of going forward as well, is to not dig a hole because we've got one-time money and then be expected to dig it out later. My job is also to manage and implement that budget that is approved by our city council each year. And one last thing to leave you on is we have a very healthy, balanced budget in the year this year, and we have almost no debt as a city, which really sets us apart for a city of our size and a city of our budget. So we often get a lot of questions, and we see a lot of information on Facebook and other social media sites, and we hear things that we know aren't accurate, or they may not have all the information. And what we're trying to do today, and we're going to do this as a regular series every other week, is try to answer some of those questions, try to put out some of the rumors, and try to really give you the actual nuts and bolts of answers that we can answer. And if we can't, we'll direct you to the right agency where we can. Again, this will be an every other week sort of discussion. If you have any questions, we're going to put my email address somewhere down here for you to email me directly, or we're going to have a regular segment through Facebook, one of the Facebook groups, Conway, South Carolina Residents SC or something like that. We'll have a regular opportunity for you to ask questions, and that will be stuff that we try to respond to every other week. And also, you can always ask this question on my email address here. Dennis Mann asks a question about the traffic light signalization throughout the city. Unfortunately, all of the traffic lights in the city are owned by SCDOT. None of them are owned by the city. Any intersection you see with a traffic light is under the direct control of SCDOT, and we do routinely ask them to check the synchronization of those lights. There is a lot of traffic throughout our city, we know that, and traffic lights may be a part of it, but they are not the whole of it. So allow me to try to give you a little bit of information about what causes traffic volume and traffic buildup, and it won't answer the questions, it won't solve the problem, but there are more pieces of the puzzle than just the synchronization of lights. One thing I can tell you is that the root cause of our traffic, especially on Main Street and to some extent on Church Street and 501 Bypass, is volume, 100%. If there was not the volume of cars on those roads, we would not have a lot of the traffic that we have today. But there are other factors that cause backups to occur. Traffic signals are one of the main problems. If you drive on Main Street in the morning and you're heading toward the beach, where does the backup end? Where do you start to see it relieved? It's usually at the traffic light at Oliver's. That's the last traffic light in the succession of lights. If you remove that light, you would see the backup be backed up to Highway 90 intersection. Wherever that last traffic light is where the backup will end. Unfortunately, we can't remove all of the lights. If we did that, we would have chaos. The light system itself is part of the backup. It's not the synchronization of the lights, but the existence of the lights. Accidents are, of course, another reason for the traffic problems we have. Everybody has experienced someone who has had an accident in the morning. When there is an accident on either the Lake Busby Bridge or on the Main Street Bridge, it completely messes up traffic for hours throughout the city. We urge you to drive more carefully, drive defensively, don't drive distracted, don't put your makeup on or drink your coffee or have a breakfast in the car in the morning. Take the time to get to where you're going, drive slowly and carefully, and encourage others who you know that take those routes to do the same. We can't stop accidents from happening, but you can. And just try to drive more carefully, and that's the only thing we can express. There are going to be accidents, but we need to do better as a whole to avoid those. And bridges, we don't have enough. And we've been preaching this for a long time. We only have 2 bridges in the city of Conway. There are only, I think, 9 crossings of the Waccamaw River in Horry County. If you live between the city of Conway and the city of Georgetown, there are 0 bridges except for the Conway Bridge and the Georgetown Bridge. And that causes a lot of the backups of people crossing the river. One thing I will tell you is we need more bridges. We needed to do them 20 years ago. It takes a long time and a lot of money to build a bridge. So we just need to be buckled down and expect the traffic to continue until we get more ways over the water. We also had a question from Lacey, asking questions about Horry County schools and the performance of the schools within the schools. I'm sorry, Lacey, we don't have any control over the schools. There are no city schools. All of the schools are controlled by Horry County Board of Education, except for the few private schools we have in this county. So there's not anything the city can do about that. We share your concerns. We are all parents and grandparents and things like that. We want our kids to be safe too, and we urge you to discuss this with Horry County School. Jeff asks us about what we're doing to lure more grocery stores and grocery store chains into the Conway area. This is one of the most frequent things we hear at the city. First off, we have a lot of grocery stores inside the city limits of Conway. We have 3 Food Lions, we have 2 Aldi, we have an IGA and a Walmart. While not a grocery store, we have $6,000 Generals. Do we want a nicer grocery store? Absolutely, but all of the businesses look at their competition in a market before coming in. So proximity to other stores is a detractor to locating a new store within the city. Now, our demographics are also a limiter. All national brands look at population, they look at per capita income, they look at education levels, disposable incomes, and a variety of other factors. We have historically not fared well in these categories, but we are doing better. And a lot of the reason we're doing better is a factor of the growth that we're experiencing. That growth is improving our numbers. It makes us more attractive, and not just to a higher quality grocery store, but also to other national retailers, including big box stores, which was another question that was asked on social media. Our city council has funded the economic development activities of our Chamber of Commerce for a number of years. And those efforts have focused heavily on the recruitment of national retail chains. These recruitment activities, they take a long time. They take multiple years to come to fruition. The good news is that there's a lot of buzz over new retail and new grocery stores specifically that are interested in the Conway market. The IGA on Main Street is going to become a KJ's and build a new facility further up Main Street. And while we haven't seen any new submittals yet, for other retail or big box, we are pretty confident that it's on the near horizon from some of the conversations that we've had. Rob Dowd asked about the overdevelopment of the area and concern about infrastructure being lacking for that development. Management of growth is a serious challenge for any community that experiences it. Our area is one of the top 1 or 2 areas every year in the country for growth, but this thought that the infrastructure there is not there yet is not accurate. We have a robust water and sewer network that we continuously expand every year. We have miles of road networks that are inside the city, that are city roads, county roads, and state roads. We have miles of sidewalks that are required of anyone who develops in the city, and they become city sidewalks. And we have streetlights with a very, very strong streetlight policy to make sure that we're lighting up the city as we grow. And we have some pretty fantastic parks throughout the city. If you've ever said, we need a Target in Conway, we need a Publix in Conway, we need a Home Depot in Conway, we need a Krispy Kreme in Conway, if you've ever said that, the way we get these commercial entities is to keep up with the growth and have housing and population. In South Carolina, every property owner has an inherent right to do certain things with the properties that they own, including develop it. We cannot prevent that. nor should we. We can help manage it, which we do very well. Moratoriums, which we hear discussed all the time, are not allowed to be a tool that stops development. There is a right to develop property that is owned by every property owner in this state. As I mentioned earlier, we need more bridges, but those bridges cannot be the responsibility of the City of Conway. New bridges take decades and millions of dollars to build. Even though the city limits expand beyond the Waccamaw River on both sides of the river, one thing we can do to improve things without new bridges is offer more on the west side of the river for the folks that live over on this side. We constantly work with developers to try to bring new medical, new industry, new hotels, new entertainment options to this side of the Waccamaw River, as well as the other side of the Waccamaw River, so that crossing the two bridges we have is not such an ordeal. We also need to utilize and get our tourists to utilize Highway 22. If you aren't stopping to spend money in Conway, go around us. If you are a commuter and every day you drive through Conway, but you don't stop to spend your money in Conway, go around us. Use 22. It's there as a bypass around Conway, and we encourage you to use it. Free up our roads for the folks who use it and actually contribute to the City of Conway. One new infrastructure project that is underway as part of Ride 3 is the construction of the Conway Perimeter Road Phase 2 or Phase 3. It will connect El Bethel Road at Highway 378 to Highway 701 on the south end of the city. That will allow you to travel from the Jamestown community on the south end all the way to 905 if you could utilize it. It's a perimeter road. It will run a true ring around the north end of the City of Conway. It is being constructed in an area that may not need it today, but we know we'll need it soon. We're getting ahead of the needs to make sure the infrastructure is in place to accommodate the growth that is here and is coming. And it's not just a single phase thing. We have a transportation plan that we have looked at for all the needs that we have today, tomorrow, and in 20 years. And we encourage you to look at our comprehensive plan. It's all available at thecityofconway.com. The comprehensive plan is a look forward, 20 years forward. We are anticipating the growth that is happening, and we're preparing for it, and we're taking those steps needed to be in a position to handle the population that's coming. Ann asks why there are no traffic lights at the intersection of East Cox Ferry and Highway 90. And we don't know. This is outside the city limits of Conway. Almost all of Highway 90 is outside the city limits of Conway. The only part of Highway 90 that is in, and that probably will ever be in, is the intersection at 501 Business. There are a lot of areas that are just outside the city that we don't have any control over, and we urge you to ask Horry County those questions, or SCDOT in this case, because Highway 90 is an SCDOT road. Leslie Watson asks us about the aesthetics of Church Street and what can be done to improve them. You're not wrong. The unattractive portions of the city, especially ones that were constructed 50 years ago or more, most of those were implemented before we had zoning, before we had development codes and development standards. Where you see a development, a new development especially, you can see what our new standards look like, and you can see that they're very pretty and aesthetically pleasing. The city recently completed conversion of overhead utilities on 4th Avenue, working our way toward 501 and toward Church Street. And we have new development planned for the old shopping center that was on 4th Avenue and coming around the corner there. Our hope is that this new development will effectively extend the downtown closer toward Church Street. And we know we have positive development coming from 16th, from 9th Avenue down Church Street. And we're hoping that this gap can be filled in with private investment, private dollars, and be done in a way that will improve the aesthetics of the 501 corridor. Unfortunately, bad development can take decades to undo. Courtney asks, and I'm going to read this one, why is there so much construction on building housing developments, new housing developments all over the place when our roads still look like crap? It's a good question, Courtney. I'm going to have my email address pop up here, somewhere here, I think. I want you to send me the roads in the city that you think look like crap, because it's our obligation to make sure that does not happen. We have a mix of roads here. Some are owned by the city, some are owned by the county, some are owned by the state and the federal highway system. We constantly work to improve deficient roads that are in our system, and if there are some that we've missed, we need to cure that. So if they're not our roads to fix, we can make sure they're on someone's radar, but if they're our roads, we want to make sure we know about them and address them immediately. So please, again, email me and tell me which roads are the ones that we need to work on now. Kathy Andrew says, I love everything the city is doing to make downtown beautiful, but is concerned about the sidewalks. Some of them are in pretty bad shape. And we've recently changed our policy to no longer do those weird small utility cuts which result in patches all over our sidewalks. We don't do that anymore. If there's a cut that needs to be made, we replace the whole panel so that we don't have all those pieces that don't match. This will help tremendously with that. The one thing we have done is this fall we replaced all of the sidewalks on Laurel Street between 2nd Avenue and Elm Street. They were in horrible disrepair caused by the wonderful trees there. And so when we did the repair to the sidewalks, we expanded those tree wells and we tried to get those trees to root down deeper instead of destroying the sidewalks. We know if we're going to have both sidewalks and trees, we need to make them, in a way that is more synchronous. And we're going to, as we continue this process of replacing our sidewalks, try to incorporate better tree management standards as well. We recently replaced all of the trees on Laurel Street from crepe myrtles, which are an inappropriate street tree, to Japanese blueberries, which are doing very well, and they will grow into beautiful shade trees that will canopy the road. We are budgeting each year to do a number of downtown sidewalks, and as we do it, we'll take as many as we can, and when the money runs out, we'll wait till the next fiscal and we'll keep doing it. It will be an ongoing process. We will always be upgrading the sidewalks in downtown.